What if I told you that a lot of the opinions people are screaming online right now are not even fully theirs? What if I told you the outrage, the division, the left versus right chaos, the fear, the distractions, all of it might be getting filtered through the same tiny circle of powerful people over and over and over again? I'm Chanelle, and this is Sassy Politics. I know that sounds a little tinfoil hat, a little basement dweller conspiracy theorist, and unfortunately for all of us, I am slowly becoming one. I know I am trying very hard to stay somewhere in the middle of the road. Mentally, of course. I really am. But lately, I feel like I am driving a car with a bad alignment. Like I am technically still on the road, but I keep drifting. And the reason I keep drifting is because too many things that used to sound insane are turning out to be true. And that is deeply annoying because there are things that they want you to feel stupid for questioning, right? Things they want you to laugh off, dismiss, mock, roll your eyes at. And then 6 months later, you're like, so that was real. Cool. Love that. That is so cool. That keeps happening, like a lot. And I think that is what is messing with people, right? Don't you think? Possibly. Because we have all been taught that sarcasm usually has a little truth in it. But nobody told us that conspiracy theorists might also be pulling from the same actual shit. Not all of it, but enough of it has turned out to be real. But I think we need to stop acting like every uncomfortable question is crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm just a little unstable and off-center. But today, we are not doing full basement mode. Not yet, but we will. I promise you, I am so down with a conspiracy theorist episode. If you want that, you need to let me know. Because then I won't feel like I am the only one that's in the basement with the tinfoil hat on. Like we can do it together. But that's another episode. Let me know how you feel about it. But trust me, babe, I got chips in that game now, and I am going all in. But today we're doing facts. Because if you really want to understand why the media feels fake, repetitive, manipulative, and weird as hell lately, you have to understand one thing first. Ownership. Who owns it? Right? I'm an AR. I am an AR manager. I find out who owes me the money. That is what I do for a living. Well, it's the same concept, right? Who owns it? Who funds it? Who benefits from what gets pushed in your face all damn day long? All day long. Because this is not about journalism. This is business. This is branding. This is power. And if people with money also have political agendas, Houston, we are being psychologically babysat. And before we get into the meat of this episode, I do want to do a quick recap from last week because the sky has apparently become part of the group chat. We are still seeing more of these fireball and meteor stories pop up. And March really has been unusually active. The American Meteor Society says the first quarter of 2026 has had a real surge in the biggest fireball events, especially in March, with more high witness events and more sonic booms than usual. NASA is also saying we are in peak fireball season, which naturally increases sightings around the March equinox, and that more cameras everywhere now make these events easier to capture and share. So if you feel like, hold on, why are there suddenly so many of these? You are not imagining that there have been a lot of these reports. But I also want to be careful here. I don't want to do the same thing that the media does and just act like we are more certain than we are, because we really don't know, right? We're all just trying to guess. I am here just throwing the questions at you so that you don't just take things for face value. We do not have that luxury anymore. NASA's position is basically Yes, bright fireballs happen all the time. This is peak season, and more cameras make them feel even more constant. At the same time, the American Meteor Society says the jump in the biggest events look real enough that it deserves serious investigation. Those two things can be true at the same time. And just in the past stretch of March, AMS highlighted major events over Ohio on March 17th, Houston on March 21st, 2 separate California fireballs on March 23rd, and additional fireballs over Michigan and Georgia on March 24th. AP also reported a bright green fireball over the Pacific Northwest on March 21st. So no, you're not crazy if it feels like the sky has been super busy. Have you seen one? Because at this point, I feel like the universe is subtweeting. Anyway, back to today's episode. Today, we are talking about something that should honestly terrify more people than it does, and I am not fear-mongering. I just want you to pay attention, so if I have to say terrify to get your attention, well, good. I hope I have your attention. And this is probably because a lot of people are still in the Matrix, right? And I do not even mean that dramatically. I mean literally. Who owns the media? And what happens when the people with the money also have the power to shape what everybody sees? Because if you've been feeling like everybody sounds the same, every headline feels manipulative, and somehow the truth keeps getting buried under performance after performance, you are watching manufactured reality. You are watching people try to shape what you fear, who you blame, who you hate, who you trust, and what you ignore. And if you are on social media, your algorithm is in on it too. So let me give you an example.
And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Same words, same rhythm, same script, just different faces. If you watch that and are feeling a little creeped out, good, that's the point. Because you should. It's just dangerous. That viral, "This is extremely dangerous to our democracy" montage came from Sinclair-owned local stations reading centrally pushed language, and Sinclair has been criticized for using local news infrastructure to distribute nationalized messaging. Researchers have also found Sinclair acquisitions were associated with less local coverage and more national politics. And that is the point. This is not just about, well, CNN lies, Fox lies, MSNBC is propaganda, social media is fake. Okay, yeah, sure. That is level 1. If you are here with me right now, we are on level 2, because the bigger issue is not just what channel leans where. The bigger issue is who owns the platform, who funds it, who benefits when certain things get amplified, and who disappears when the story becomes inconvenient. That is the real question, because once you understand that media is not always journalism, or at least not nearly as much of it as we would like it to be, everything starts to click. Some of it is journalism. I'm not going to take it away from the people out there really doing the work. They're doing real journalism, necessary journalism. But a lot of it is advertising, narrative control, emotional manipulation. And if that sounds dramatic, just look around. People are out here defending billionaires like they are family members. That is weird. That does not happen naturally. That happens because they have been trained to read the script that way. Okay, let me explain this on the 2nd grade level. And I am not doing that to patronize you. I'm doing that because I want to make sure that it makes sense. Sometimes the way that people explain things are so complicated and complex that I miss the little details. So I want to make sure I capture those little details this time around. I'm explaining it to myself too. Okay. So let's say there's this guy named Mr. Jones, and I'm not talking about Jerry Jones, just a random Mr. Jones. So Mr. Jones buys a big apartment complex. Now from the outside, it looks like just many different apartments. Apartment 1, it looks a little different. Apartment 2 has a different set of curtains in the windows. Apartment 3, they painted their door red. And Apartment 4 has a welcome mat that says, "Live, laugh, love." From the street, it looks like all these places are separate, but they are not, because they all belong to Mr. Jones. He owns the building, so if he wants a certain repair done, certain people kicked out, certain rules followed, certain things hidden, or certain messages pushed, he does not have to control every apartment one by one. He just controls the building. And that is basically how media ownership works. A bunch of outlets can look separate on the outside, sound a little bit different, brand themselves differently, but if they are all owned by the same parent company, influenced by the same investors, or funded by the same interests, you are not getting as much variety as you think you are. The investors could be mom and dad. The funding could be cousin Jim. You are getting the illusion of variety. Different logos, but the same landlord. And in the US, a relatively small group of giant companies still dominates a huge share of what people are watching, what people are streaming and reading, including Comcast, Disney, Warner Brothers, Discovery, Paramount, Sony, and Amazon. That is why this matters. People think they are choosing between totally separate perspectives, but sometimes they are really choosing between different doors in the same building. And once your eyes open up to that, it gets really hard to go back. It's like finding out Santa Claus is not real and then realizing that the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy are fake too. Awesome. Love that for us. And now, unfortunately, we do have to talk about Trump. I'm sorry, but we do. It is my least favorite thing to talk about, which is a hilarious statement considering how often I talk about him. But one thing that I will absolutely give that man credit for, and I hate even saying that out loud, is that he understood the media game better than a lot of politicians ever did. He understood something very simple. Attention is power. He did not need everybody to like him. He did not need every outlet to support him. He just needed them to keep putting his face on the screen. And they did. Over and over and over again. Because it was profitable. He was clickable. He was chaotic in exactly the way that keeps people watching. He was basically the political version of the Dallas Cowboys. Whether you love him or hate him, you are still talking about him. And that is where people get played. Because if somebody becomes profitable enough to the machine will start feeding them to you constantly. And when you are digesting the same face, the same chaos, the same emotional trigger all day, every day, that starts shaping how you think, what you focus on, what you fear, and what you ignore. That is dangerous. That is not just politics anymore. That is conditioning. And this part is not imaginary. Corporate media's Trump-era incentives were widely acknowledged in real time. Media executives openly admitted that his coverage was great for business, even when it was bad for the country. And that feedback loop helped keep him at the center of attention. And if they can do that with him, imagine how long they have been doing this in quieter, prettier, more polished ways. Because this is not actually new. It is just updated to the modern version. History is full of powerful people trying to control the message, the fear, the enemy, the story, and the public's understanding of reality. This is not a left or right thing. That is a power thing. And I'm not saying every modern media problem is a one-to-one replay of some exact historical moment. I am not doing lazy history today. What I am saying is that history echoes. And one of the clearest warning signs in history has always been this. When powerful people figure out how to dominate information, they get much better at dominating perception. And when they dominate perception, they can get people to consent to things they would never have agreed to if they were calm, informed, and actually thinking clearly. This is how people get turned against each other. This is how people start cheering for things that hurt them. That's how people become easier to control. And if you think we are above that, I do not think you have been paying attention. And then came social media, which a lot of us thought was going to save us. Well, I mean, maybe it didn't. I don't know. I kind of love it and kind of addicted. At first, it felt like, wow, regular people finally have a voice. And in some ways, that part is true. I know I have one that I'm able to use every single day. Everyday people got in. Whistleblowers got in. But then what happened? Algorithms, monetization, rage bait, engagement farming, addiction by design. And instead of replacing the machine, social media became another arm of it. Louder, faster, more personal, more intimate. Now, the manipulation does not just happen on your TV. It happens in your hand, in your bed, at a red light, half awake, when you are lonely, when you are angry, when you are vulnerable. And that is a whole different level of dangerous. And this week, 2 major verdicts landed against big tech. A Los Angeles jury found Meta and YouTube liable in a social media addiction case and awarded $6 million to the plaintiff, while a New Mexico jury ordered Meta to pay $375 million over findings that it misled users about safety and enabled child exploitation risks. Both rulings are expected to be appealed, but they are a big deal because they target the design and safety claims of the platforms, not just isolated posts. So yes, one victim or one family may be named in the lawsuit, but if we are being honest, the victim is kind of all of us. Too bad we all did not get in on that lawsuit. Because if a platform is intentionally designed to keep you emotionally activated, endlessly scrolling, pairing, reacting, and feeling unstable, that's not really neutral. That is behavioral engineering. So, what do we do? Because I do not want to be this episode to just be, well, everything is fake. Good luck, everybody. Hey. No, that is not the point. The point is not hopelessness. The point is awareness. The point is discernment. The point is getting your brain back. Because the second you realize you are being emotionally managed, you can start interrupting it. That is where your power comes back in. You start asking better questions. Why was this put in front of me today? Who benefits from me feeling this way right now? Why is this story everywhere while something else is buried? Is this informing me or is this steering me? Am I reacting or am I actually thinking? That is the shift. And if enough people start doing that, the machine loses some of its grip because the machine only works if you stay asleep inside of it. So no, you are not crazy for the 3rd time. Something is off. And no, it's not just the media in some vague dramatic way. It is ownership. It is money. It is influence. It's repetition. It is fear. It is power. And if we do not start teaching people how this actually works, we're going to keep fighting with each other while the people at the top keep cashing in. That's the trap. To keep us distracted, divided, exhausted, overstimulated, and too emotionally drained to think clearly. But there is good news. Hope is never lost because you are here and I am here and we have not given up. So do not dare count yourself out. I get being tired. I get being overwhelmed and I get feeling defeated. I truly do. I need to step away at times and just regroup, reset, and restart. But we are not defeated. Not while we are still here. Not while we are still thinking and not while we are still questioning. Let's just keep talking to each other, right? We are building. And that brings me to Linked We Stand. We are building community. We are building resources. We are building something that starts with people deciding they are not going to do this alone. So head over to linkedwestand.com and click the tab that says Get Involved. Put your information in, get on the email list, and get started with this community. The site is still under construction because Rome was not built in a day, but it does start with you. Protect your peace. Stop handing your reality over to billionaires, corporations, algorithms, and people whose business models depend on keeping you emotionally unstable. Your brain is yours. Your voice is yours. Your discernment is yours. And the second you stop blindly swallowing what you are being fed, you become a hell of a lot harder to control.